Okay, so we're going to start in standing, and you're just going to find a comfortable position, a comfortable place for you to stand in your space. We're going to start with the legs together, and what you're going to do here is you're just going to open those toes out to the side and then open the heels out to the side. So in that way, your legs should be about hip width apart and they should be parallel. Okay, so from here, we're just going to start by grounding ourselves and just getting into the right headspace for our Pilates this morning. So we're going to place our hands at the bottom of our rib cage, and we're just going to do some nice deep breaths into our hands here. And again. Good. And as we're breathing in and out, we just want to make sure our shoulders are not rising up to our ears, but we got nice space between our shoulders and the ears. And as you're breathing, you're making sure we're not losing our height or slouching forward, but we're staying nice and elongated in our stance as we breathe. Good. And again. Good. Really feeling the soles of your feet on the floor, pressing all 10 toes into the earth as we're standing here. Good. From here, we're just gonna rest our arms by our side, and we're going to start by doing a little squat here. So we're going to squat down, raise the arms forward, and come back up. Good. Again, we're going to squat down and come back up. Nice and gentle. Sending the bottoms back and arms floating up and down. Good. So if I go from the side, you're sending your hips back, arms forward, and come back up. Standing nice and tall. Again, just some nice, gentle squats to get you started. Again. Good. Making sure that as we lift our arms, our shoulders are not coming up, but you're keeping them down. Good. And from here, we're going to go squat down, stand up, rise on our toes, and come back down. Squat down, stand up, rise, and lower. You can, of course, hold on to something if you would like, or if you don't want to do the rise, absolutely fine. Entirely up to you. Squat down, stand up, and rise. Good. Let's do a couple more. And rise. Good. Still keeping the spine nice and long. And rise. Good. This time we're going to squat down, we're going to stay in our squat, and we're going to try to do a rise at the bottom of our squat. So for this one, it is quite difficult. So if you can't lift both heels, you can lift one. That's absolutely fine. Or you can hold on to something if you like to help you with this position. So if I go from the side, you're squatting down, lift, lower, and stand. And you're trying to almost keep your height the same the whole time. So if you want to avoid doing this, you want to try to keep your height the same, even with that rise. Good. One more. And rise, lower, and up. Good. From here, we're going to soften our knees a little bit, and we're going to do our mermaid stretch. We're going to sweep one arm up the side of our body to overhead, or out to the side if you can't do overhead. And from here, we're going to look in the opposite direction, and we're going to circle our arms back to the starting position. So you can either start with your arms overhead, you're circling inwards, back up, Or if your arm is out to the side, you can circle to the side and you can sweep across the front if you don't want to be reaching overhead like so. Good. Let's do a couple more here. Good. Still keeping the spine nice and long, even though you're arching over a little bit. Making sure those knees are soft and bent. One more. Good. And you're going to sweep the arm down. Same thing on the other side. Bend those knees, sweep the arm up the side of your body to overhead or to the side, whichever one works for you. And from here, you're going to circle forward and back to the starting position. So you're circling towards the face in a clockwise direction. Or I guess clockwise direction if you're doing your left arm. If it's your right arm, then it would be counterclockwise. Good. Keeping the spine nice and long, knees soft, neck long. So we're avoiding this kind of movement. You're keeping the shoulders down. Lovely. Two more. Good. Chest open to the front. One more. Good. And we sweep the arm down. Good. From here, we're going to elongate our spine even more. And then we're going to go up and over in an upper body curve. So you can see everything from the ribs up, curving, everything from the ribs down, stay where it is. From here, you're going to circle forward a little bit more. And then you're going to roll back up, stacking each vertebrae on top of the other. Good. Other side, elongating the spine. Go up and over with the upper spine. And you're going to continue that circle forward. And then you're going to roll back up, stacking each vertebrae on top of the other. Good. One more each side. Elongate the spine. Go up and over. That's it. And then we circle forward to the front. And you're going to roll back up. One vertebrae at a time. Good. Other side. Lengthening the spine, reaching up and over with the crown of the head. Nice gap underneath our side. We're going to continue that roll forward. And then from here, we're going to roll back up, stacking one vertebrae on top of the other. And now we're going to float the forearms up, elbows bent into our side, palms up, fingers open. We're going to go into our dumb waiter, which is opening our arms to the side, but today we're going to add a plie as we're doing that. So the plie that you're doing here is very different to a squat. So you want to almost imagine your body sort of like an elevator. You're going up and down and you're staying relatively vertical. So we're not leaning forward. So a squat is like this, but we want to do a plie, which is like this. So you're keeping your body in the middle and you're sort of sending your knees forward over your feet and you're keeping your body nice and long. So this plie is different to a squat. Okay, keep going, plie, good, and up, and again, plie, and up, good. That's it. Keep the shoulders nice and far away from those ears, chest open. Good, now we're going to add our Cleopatra. We're going to do a plie, and we're going to turn the palms down, elongate the arms, rise up onto the toes if you can, lower the heels back down. And again, we're plieing as we bring our arms open, and then as you extend the arms, you're straightening the knees and rising onto your toes. Lower the toes back down as you pull the elbows in. Good. So you'll probably notice this class is a little bit more challenging than the one from last week. And with every week, we're going to try to build on some of those skills that we learned from previous weeks, just so we can continue building our strength during this series. Good. So if you find that the rise is quite difficult, don't worry, you don't have to do the rise. You can stay with your feet flat, like so. Or if you want a challenge, you can do the plie here, and then rise up onto your toes as you're reaching those fingertips out. Good. Let's see if we can do 2 more here. That's it, good. Palm down, reaching those arms across the room and lower. Good. 1 more. Plie, palms down, reach, rise onto your toes, lower, and lower the arms down. Good. From here, we're going to practice our roll downs. We're going to start with our chin. You're going to gently tuck the chin in towards your chest, and you're going to begin peeling each vertebrae, so each spine bone, off one at a time in order to roll all the way to the floor. So you're really thinking about articulating through the spine as you're unstacking each of your vertebrae, one at a time. Going as far as you can go. You might have to bend your knees if you find that the length at the back of the legs is not quite there. Then when you reach the bottom, you're going to stack back up, one vertebrae at a time, stacking each spine bone on top of the other. Nice and slow. So the slower, the better, and your head is the last thing to come up. Good, and again. Down, starting from the head, peeling each vertebrae off the middle column one at a time, and really articulating through the spine as you're doing this. Soft bend to the knees if you need. And then when you can't go any further, you're going to come back up, stacking one vertebrae on top of the other, one at a time. 1 more. If you're somebody who gets dizzy, bring the head down. Just be careful here. You can hold on to something if you like, or you can stop when you get to your hips and you can roll back up. It's entirely up to you. We're just going to do 1 more here. Really thinking about articulating through the spine. And this time, when you get to the bottom, we're going to stay at the bottom. You're going to place your hands down with your knees bent. We're going to bend our knees down, and then we're going to find our way to the floor to lie on our back. I'm just going to move the camera down a bit so you can see me there. Okay, there we go. So we're on the floor. We're lying on our back. Legs straight. All we're going to do here is we're going to gently draw one leg up to a bent position, and then we're going to draw the other leg up to a bent position like so. And you're going to keep your legs together, and from here you're going to open those toes out, and then you're going to open the heels out so that your legs are in a parallel position. From here, we're going to revisit our Pilates rest position. So you'll probably remember from the last 2 weeks, our Pilates rest position is the place that we're going to do all of our exercises from. So first thing we're going to do is we're going to make a little diamond shape with our hands. So you're going to put your thumbs together and then your fingers together. So you make a little diamond shape. From here, your thumb is going to go into your belly button like so, and then you're going to gently place the rest of the fingers down. So if I turn sideways to show you, it looks like this. You can see that diamond shape, thumbs in the belly button and then the fingers down. So you've got a little diamond on our pelvis. From here, you're going to pretend there is a steel ball in the middle of the diamond. And you're going to use the movement of your pelvis to roll that steel ball to the top of the diamond as far as you can possibly go. And then you're going to roll that steel ball to the bottom of the diamond as far as you can possibly go.
So the only movement you're doing here is from the pelvis. So we're not lifting anything, but we're rocking through that pelvis. So if I move my hand, so you can see my pelvis, I'm rolling the ball to the top of the diamond, and then I'm rolling the ball to the very bottom of the diamond. So you're gonna do that several times, just in your own time. And with each repetition, you're just going to make that rock smaller and smaller until you get to a neutral point where you're halfway between each position. Okay? And that position here is what we call the neutral pelvic position. So this neutral pelvis is the position you're going to keep the entire time we're doing our exercises. And you're going to place your arms down by your side, or if you want to, you can keep it as a diamond on your pelvis, but generally I like to place my arms down by my side to give you a little bit more stability. From here, we're going to think about pulling up through our pelvic floor, almost like if you were to sit on a block of ice and it's really cold and you just went and you pulled up a little bit through your sit bones just because it's cold at where you're sitting. So you're thinking about that contraction of the pelvic floor, and you're not clenching, you're not bearing down, you're just contracting the pelvic floor muscle by about 20%. And as you're doing that, you want to make sure you're not losing that neutral pelvis. Next thing we're going to think about is our ribs. We're going to imagine our ribs are melted down into the floor. So ribs melting into the floor and not flaring up. And then we're going to think about our shoulder blades. We're going to think about how heavy our shoulder blades are, and they're really pressing down into the floor. And you're almost trying to pull them back, crossing them into the opposite back pocket of your pants. And from here, we're thinking about the back of the neck, nice and long, almost as if you're holding a little peach under your chin. So these 5 things here are what we call the Pilates rest position. So you're trying to maintain all of these things without losing any of the elements as we're doing our Pilates movement. And this is where you're sourcing your stability and strength from. So back of the neck, nice and long, holding a peach under the chin, shoulder blades pressing down into the floor, ribs melting into the floor, pelvis neutral, gently pulling up through that pelvic floor. And as we maintain this position here, we're going to go into our scissors level 1, which is floating one leg up to tabletop like so, and then bringing it down. And as you're doing scissors level 1, you just want to really make sure that you're keeping every element of the Pilates rest position intact. So we're not going to flare our ribs and lift our pelvis as we're lifting up into our scissors level 1. You're going to keep everything nice and flat. Good. Make sure we're still keeping our shoulders away from our ears as we're doing this. And you're going to breathe. So we spoke about before that it doesn't really matter whether you're inhaling or exhaling during these exercises and during each position, as long as you're breathing and you're trying to draw out your breath so that they're long and slow. So breathing in your own time. Good. Really trying to keep that pelvis neutral as much as possible, making sure we're not shaking the non-moving knee, right? You want to keep that non-moving knee nice and steady. Almost imagine you're balancing a glass of red wine on top of that non-moving knee, and you're lying down on some beautiful white carpet. So you definitely don't want to be spilling that whine. Good, keep going. And if it helps you here, you can also think about a spirit level sitting on the front of your pelvis, where you're trying to keep that bubble in the middle of the spirit level the whole time without us sort of tipping from side to side. Good. Let's do a couple more here in our own time. Good. Good. And from here, we're going to do our one leg stretch, level 2. We're going to float the leg up to tabletop. From here, you're going to straighten the leg and reach the toes away from you, almost like you're pressing a button with your toes on the opposite wall, bringing it back to tabletop and lowering back down. Good, keep going. Floating the leg to tabletop, reaching the toes away, almost like you're pressing a button on the opposite wall. And then you're bringing it back to tabletop and lowering back down. Good. And as we're doing our one leg stretch, level 2, you want to make sure we're not rocking the pelvis, right? We're not moving the opposite knee. So still thinking about that glass of wine balancing on the non-moving knee. And still thinking about that spirit level at the front of our pelvis so we're not rocking. And just making a mental note that we're not losing any of our 5 Pilates rest positions. So as you're doing this, you're still keeping that peach underneath the chin, so neck nice and long. You're still keeping the shoulder blades pressing down into the floor and towards the feet. You're still keeping your ribs melted down into the floor. Your pelvis is still in a neutral position, so we're not flaring like this, right, as we're moving. Good. And you're still pulling out gently through that pelvic floor. That's it. Keep going. So really trying to stretch that leg away from you as you're doing this. Good. Breathing. Good. On the next one, we're going to float our arms up as well at the same time as that tabletop. And we're going to draw a circle as we're reaching the foot away, back into tabletop, and lowering back down. Again, floating up, drawing that circle as you're reaching that foot away, bring it back up, and lower down. You can keep your arms up if you would like, or you can float them back down and then float them back up. It's up to you. Reaching the toes away as you're circling, bring it back, lower the foot down. So if you don't want to add the arms, that's absolutely fine. You can keep the arms on the floor if you would like, because bringing the arms up during this gives you less stability, so you have to work a little harder to keep your 5 Pilates rest elements intact. Good. Making sure your neck is still nice and long. We're not letting our shoulders float up to our ears. Good. And down, breathing. A couple more here. Good. One more. Reaching. That's it. Keep going. Yeah. And lowering back down. And rest for a second. Good. Okay. Next, we're going to do our double tabletop. So we're going to find our Pilates rest position again. So you can use that diamond again if you would like. And we're just going to rock that pelvis until you find that sort of neutral point where you're halfway between one extreme and halfway between the other. You're going to pull up through that pelvic floor, 20%. Let the ribs melt down into the floor, shoulder blades down, excuse me, shoulder blades down into the floor, neck nice and long, peach under the chin. Good. From here, we're going to float one leg up to tabletop like so. You're going to deepen the contraction in your abdominal muscles and then float the other leg up to tabletop, squeezing the legs together. Good. And then you're going to lower the first leg that you brought up down, like so, and then your other leg comes down as well. And as we're doing this, you're going to do that again. As you're doing this, you're going to make sure, I'm just moving my arm so you can see, when you bring the second leg up, you want to avoid this. Can you see that? Where the pelvis went from neutral to this arched position. So you want to keep the pelvis neutral. You just want to tighten the abdominal contraction a little bit more so you can float that second leg up without that happening, okay? And then you're floating the leg down and then floating the second leg down. Good. Keep going. Up with one leg. Deepen the contraction in your abdominals. Float the second leg up to tabletop. Lower the first leg. Lower the second leg. So really try to think about keeping that neutral pelvis as you're doing the tabletop. So ideally, when you're doing the tabletop, if you're doing it correctly, it shouldn't be putting any strain on your back. You should feel nice and warm in your abdominal muscles as you're doing this. Good. Let's do a couple more here. And you don't have to do it fast. You can do it slow. It's entirely up to you. Making sure you're deepening the contraction in the abdominal muscles. Good. And relax. Good. Okay. Now we're going to do our oblique prep. So we're going to get back into our rest position again, thinking about that neutral pelvis. You're pulling up through the pelvic floor, letting the ribs melt into the floor, shoulder blades nice and heavy into the ground, sliding into the opposite back pocket of our pants. Back of the neck nice and long, holding a little peach underneath the chin. From here, you're going to bring your arms behind the head or behind the neck, opening the elbows. So we're not like this, right? We're opening the elbows, shoulders away from the ears. From here, you're going to imagine there's a little string from the bottom of one side of your rib cage to the opposite side of the hip. And you're imagining that string getting shorter and it's tightening so that you bring the bottom of the rib towards the opposite hip in this orientation. And you come back down. Good. And you're going to go to the other side, same thing. And as you're doing this, make sure our neck is not doing this kind of position. You still want that little peach underneath the chin. And making sure we're not pulling the elbow across, right? The elbows stay nice and wide. It's more thinking about your rib. You can do 2 more on your own time. Good. And rest. Good. You can relax your arms, relax your abdominal muscles. And now we're going to do our shoulder bridge. So you're going to place your arms down by your side. We're thinking about our Pilates rest position again. So thinking about your pelvis, you're going to keep that pelvis neutral, pulling up through the pelvic floor, letting the ribs melt into the floor, shoulder blades pressing down into the floor, sliding into the opposite back pocket of your pants, back of the neck nice and long. Think about that peach underneath the chin. From here, you're going to think about Your spine is almost like pearls on a string. So nice and articulating in its movement. And you're going to peel, starting from your tailbone, you're going to peel each vertebrae off the ground one at a time until you get to this position. And you'll notice this position, my weight is between my shoulder blades, and it's very different to this, right? So I'm not using my back to crunch through here, but instead you're keeping the weight in between your shoulder blades, and then you're lowering back down one vertebrae at a time. So your bottom should be the last thing to come down like so. Okay, and again, you're pulling up through your tailbone and you're gently peeling each vertebrae off the ground one at a time. And then you're placing each vertebrae down one at a time. So of course, if you're somebody who finds this quite difficult to do and it hurts your back, you can always just go up in one block and come down in one block rather than articulating through the spine. But if you can, ideally, you want to be articulating through that spine to give you some more mobility in the back. Good. And you should be feeling it at the back of the legs and the back of the bum rather than the front of the thigh. Good. Keep going. As slow as you can, you're really trying to articulate through that spine. Good. On the next one, when you reach up, we're going to float both arms up to the ceiling. You're going to hold it at the top for 3, 2, 1, and then articulating the spine back down as you're floating the arms back down. Of course, here you don't have to reach both arms up. You can just have one arm up or no arms at all if you want to keep your arms, both arms down on the floor. That's absolutely fine. It's whatever challenges you, but you feel comfortable doing. Okay, let's see if we can do 2 more in our own time. Good. Well done, everybody. Really feeling the articulation through the spine. Good. Let's do one more here. Are we still breathing? Shoulders away from the ears. Good. And rest. Good. Okay, we're going to bring our legs in together. Arms open to the side. So you can see I'm pretty close to my wall. So one of my arms will be bent. But ideally, you want your arm to be flat on the floor in sort of like a T shape. From here, you're going to gently drop your knees to one side, noticing how here my knees and feet are stacked on top of each other. So I'm not leaving one behind. I'm keeping them stacked, and your hip will lift off, and that's absolutely fine. Feeling that stretch there. And then imagining you've got some magnets at the bottom of your feet and the back of your hip, and the magnets are sucking you back into the middle position. Again, I'm going to move a little bit further from my wall here, and you're going to drop the knees to the opposite side. So notice again, my knees and my feet are stacked, so I'm not leaving one behind. You're keeping them stacked, feeling that stretch in your back. And then imagining the magnets at the bottom of the feet and the back of the hips. That's going to suck you back into that middle position. Good. One more each side, dropping the knees, keeping those knees and feet stacked on top. And then from here, thinking about the magnets, that's pulling you back to that middle position. Good. One more to the other side, dropping the knees, making sure the feet and knees are still stacked. And then thinking about the magnets pulling you back to the middle. Excellent. From here, We're going to drop the knees to one side again. And this time, you're going to let your upper body follow so that you're in a side lying position. I'm just going to move back a little bit on my mat so you can see me. Now, we're lying on our side, and it doesn't matter what side you start with because we'll do both. And you're going to make sure that your knees are bent, legs are together, your feet should be in line with your bottom, which should be in line with the shoulders, and it should be in line with the head. From here, we're going to find our neutral pelvis again by pulling the top hip down towards our feet to create a little bit of a gap underneath our spine. And then you're thinking about headlights at the front of your hips. Right now, the headlights are pointing at the wall in front of you, but you're just going to bring them down slightly. So they're sort of on a bit of a diagonal. But as you do that, you still want to maintain that nice gap underneath the spine. And you're going to make sure shoulders are not rising up, but you're pulling them away from the ears. Ribs melting into the spine, so not letting them flare, but letting them melt into the spine. Good. From here, you have the choice of either doing clams, level 1, where you keep your feet on the floor, like so, where you have your feet up and you're trying to open the knees. So it's up to you if you want to do this level 2 here, or if you want to do level 1, making sure that whichever one you choose, the headlights are still pointing slightly towards the floor, right? So we're not flicking back like this as we're opening. You're keeping those headlights pointed on a diagonal slightly towards the floor like so. Okay, and you can even try doing a couple here in level 1 and then doing a couple in level 2 if you would like. If you don't want to be doing level 2 the whole time, that's absolutely fine. Good. Okay. And then we're going to lower back down, give yourself a little bit of a rub on the hip. And then we're going to go again. We're going to try to see if we can do 5 in a row. Good. And then rest for a couple seconds. And then go back in and see if you can do another 5. Still keeping that gap underneath our spine. Headlights pointing slightly down on a diagonal. Ribs into the spine. Shoulder away from the ears. And rest. Good. We're going to do our Sidekick Level 2. So you can either do this in level 1, so you can keep it at level 1 if you like, where you're floating that top leg up, and you can literally just do it this way, where you're just lifting, or you can think about dusting that glass table in front of you by swiping that leg forward and back, as long as we're keeping the knee and the foot level. We're not doing this, we're not doing this, but our knee and foot are going to be at the same height as you're doing that movement. Or if you want to do level 2, your leg is straight with the foot flexed. You're going to lift that top leg up to create the gap between the thighs. And from here, you're going to bring the leg forward, point the toes, and then you're going to flex the foot and bring it back. And as you do this Sidekick Level 2, making sure we're not lowering the leg back down, but you're keeping that gap between the legs the whole time, like so. You're keeping that gap between the legs, and we're avoiding this kind of movement. Good. Shoulders still far away from the ears, right? Good. And if you would like, you can come back to this position if you want to do the level 1, or if you want to do just lifting. It's entirely up to you, whatever you're comfortable with, as long as you try to keep a uniform gap between your thighs. Good. See if we can do 2 more. Good. See if we can do 1 more. Good, and rest. You can rub out the side of your hip if you like. And we're just going to bring our legs to the middle, back to the middle, and then we're going to drop our knees towards the other side and let your upper body follow. So now we're going to do on the other hip. I'm just going to turn around so you can see me, but make sure you're switching sides to the other leg. Okay. From here, our legs are together again, making sure your feet are in line with your hip, in line with the shoulders, in line with the head. And we're going to find our neutral pelvis by pulling the top hip down towards our feet to create a little gap underneath our spine. Thinking about the headlights at the front of the hips, which are right now pointing forward, and we just want to point them down on the diagonal slightly towards the floor. Thinking about the ribs, melting down, melting back into your spine, shoulders away from the ears like so. Okay, from here, we're going to do our clams level 1 like this with your feet on the floor, or you can do your clams level 2, which is the same thing, but with your feet up in the air, like so. And if you would like, you can alternate between the two. So you can do level 2 and then followed by level 1. That's absolutely fine. It's entirely up to you what you would like to do. We just want you to choose a level that you're comfortable doing, but it still challenges you. Good. That's it. Shoulders away from the ears, right? So we're not doing this as we're doing our clams, making sure we're not turning like this as we're doing our clams. You still want to think about the headlights pointing sort of slightly on a diagonal towards the floor. Good. Couple more. Good. And lower down. You can rub out the side of your hip if you like. And we're going to go back into it again. See if we can do 5, either in level 1 or level 2. Good. And lower again. Rub it out. We're going to do that 1 more time. We're going to do 5, 4, 3, 2, you got it. 1, and rest. Good. Okay, and now we're going to do our Sidekick Level 2. So again, you want to pull that top hip towards the feet so you have a little gap underneath your spine. The fronts of the hips are pointing slightly towards the floor, the ribs melting back into the spine, shoulders away. From here, you can either do level 2, which is keeping the leg straight, foot flexed. You're hovering the leg up so that there's a gap between your thighs are parallel. You're pointing the foot and you're bringing it forward, still thinking about dusting that glass table. And then you're flexing the foot and bringing it back. So like this, pointing the foot, bringing it forward, flexing the foot, bringing it back, pointing the foot, bringing it forward, flexing the foot, bringing it back. Now, you can either do it that way, or if you would like, you can keep your legs in bent and you're just lifting up, or you're lifting up and you're thinking about dusting that glass table with that leg, making sure the knee is not lower, the foot is not lower, but the knee and the foot are sort of on the same level like this. Or, let me move back a little bit. Or this one, where you point your toes, bring it forward, bring it back. As long as the gap remains between your thighs. So as we come forward, we're not dropping the leg down. Good. See if we can do 4 more in our own time. Shoulders away from the ears. Good. Are we breathing? Good. Keep going. When you've done your 4, you can have a rest. Good. Excellent. Okay. From here, we're going to lie down on our back. You're lying down on your back, and you can do what you would like with your legs. You can keep them bent if you would like. You can have them straight. Your hands, again, can be wherever you like. They could be on your tummy. They could be on the floor. They could be on the legs. Whatever you prefer. We're just going to lie here in a comfortable position. And we're going to do a couple of neck releases. So you're going to think about how heavy your head is on the bed or on the couch, depending on where you're lying down. But you're going to just feel the weight of the head onto the floor, and you're going to roll the head from side to side like so. Really feeling that heaviness in the head. So you're not lifting the head as you're rolling. You're trying to keep it as heavy as you can into the floor, almost like you're pressing an imprint onto some sand. So you're really letting the weight of the head sink into the floor, and you're just rolling it from side to side as you're doing that. And it doesn't have to be fast. You can do this as slow as you want, as long as you're feeling every surface of your scalp on the floor, really feeling that change in that weight as you roll through the head. Good. One more. Good, nice and heavy. And we're going to go back to the middle. This time, you're going to think about the back of your neck, the back of your scalp. So where that one pointy bit at the back of your skull, you're going to imagine you dip that one point in paint, and you're just going to draw a line on the floor with that pointy bit of your skull at the back. So that you're doing sort of a nod with the head as you're drawing that line on the floor with that pointy bit of your scalp. Good. So again, here you want to feel how heavy your head is into the floor. So no lifting like that. So you don't want to be lifting the head, but you want to keep it on the floor, thinking about that pointy spot at the back of the scalp that you're sort of drawing that line on the floor with. Good. A couple more here. Good, one more. And from here, we're just going to gently bring our legs in together. You're going to drop your knees to one side, letting your upper body follow. And you're going to gently push yourself back up to a seated position. And we're going to sit on the floor, either with your legs crossed, with the legs out, with the legs straight, whatever you prefer. But if sitting on the floor is quite difficult for you, you can take a block, a book, something that's hard and a little bit thicker, and you can sit on that, which just gives your hips a little bit of room as you're opening the legs or as you're folding the legs like so. From here, in the seated position, we're going to think about lengthening our spine up towards the ceiling, almost like you've got a helium balloon for a head and it's floating up towards the ceiling. Neck nice and long, spine long. Good. From here, we're going to
float our arms up in front of us like so, and we're going to open them up on a diagonal. So we're sort of stretching that chest and bringing it back and down. And again, floating the arms up, palms facing in. You're going to open the arms on a diagonal to stretch the front of the chest, bringing it back and lowering it down. And if you find this quite aggravating for your shoulders, that's fine. You can open out to the side, bring it back in, and lower down. So you don't have to float them up on a diagonal in this sort of Y kind of shape. If you can't, you can bring them to the side. It's absolutely fine, as long as we're feeling that spread of the chest, like so. Good. Good, and again. Good. See if we can do one more here. Open the chest. Good, and lower down. Okay, from here, we're going to place the arms down by our side, and we're going to do a bit of an arm circle. So we're keeping our back nice and long, our spine and crown of the head floating up to the ceiling. And you're just going to gently cross the arms, almost like you're taking off a shirt. So that cross position. And you're going to open the arms up overhead and lower the arms down. If you can't reach up overhead, that's okay. You can cross and open forward. If you would like, it does not have to be over the head, as long as we're not doing this as we're opening. You want to keep the shoulders down and you want to open the front of the chest. Good. Keeping the spine nice and long. Good. Opening the chest, spine nice and long. Good. Let's do one more here. Opening the chest. And down. This time we're going to go in the opposite direction, up overhead, crossing and lower down. Again, you don't have to go that high. You can go out to the side, crossing in front and down as well. So again, reach the arms away. You can cross in front and lower down, or you can reach the arms away and overhead, and then you can cross and down. Whichever one works for you. We're going to do 2 more in your own time. Good. Shoulders down. Good. One more. Reach the fingers away. Cross and down. Good. Thank you very much, everybody, for joining us for Pilates Level 2, class session number 3. Next week, same time, same place on a Thursday, and that will be our last class for next week. So we would love to see you at the same time, same place. But we do have some time for questions now. If anybody has any questions. Okay, I can see there is. Oh, okay, perfect. So it's just somebody commenting about their logging in. Okay. Well, we would love for you to join us for Super Walk. The link is at the top of the chat box, or you can send us an email as well, which is info@parkinson.bc.ca, and you can ask us questions about the classes, or if you wanted to give feedback, we would love to hear from you as well for how we can improve our services in the future. And if you're someone who found this a little bit too difficult, you can try our Level 1 class on a Tuesday at the same time, but next week is our last class as well. Excellent. Great. Good, I'm glad. You're very welcome. Thank you very much for joining us. So we will see everybody next week. Feel free to send us an email if you have any questions. Thank you, everybody, so much for joining us. I hope you had a good time. Hope I didn't scare anybody off.